Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight at 5. Felicia is off tonight. We are learning new details tonight about beloved Colts owner Jim Irsay and the final moments of his life.
This comes from a 15-page exclusive report from the Washington Post. Our Samantha Johnson spent the day reading through that report today.
And she also talked to one of the writers who got some new information that's in this report. This was a very interesting conversation today, wasn't it?
It was, and detailed, and it had to be because this new report is 15 pages. So that writer I talked to, his name is Will Hobson. He tells me most of the testimony in this new article comes from 5 anonymous people who they say were close to Jim Irsay. Hobson says the writers also found evidence that Irsay overdosed 3 times in his last 5 years of life. Once in 2020. Another time at his home in Carmel in December of 2023. We told you about that one. And again, just 12 days later in Florida. That one, according to the Washington Post, started a 4-month hospital stay for Jim Irsay. Now, at the time, the Colts told us Irsay was being treated for a severe respiratory illness. So these sources confirming to the writers at the Post that Irsay had relapsed over the years and was getting opioids and ketamine from a big-time addiction specialist out in California, something the Irsays and the Colts kept quiet.
You know, the Colts misled the public about what was going on with Mr. Irsay over the last 2 years of his life. And the manner in which the team handled his death allows for the possibility that it wasn't sufficiently investigated.
So now Hobson tells me these sources believe the doctor who dished out those drugs to Irsay fed his addiction, and they say he played a role in his death. Now, today I did call the Beverly Hills Police Department. I did not hear back, but they did tell the Post there wasn't any evidence the day Irsay died to make them believe he overdosed. Now, they did also tell the Post that right now there are no active investigations into Irsay's death, nor are there any investigations into the treatment that he received. We'll tell you what else, though, we did learn about that California doctor and also what the Colts are now saying in response to this report. We'll have that for you coming up in the next hour.
Yeah, they didn't. The Colts issued a pretty lengthy statement.
They did.
All right, we'll see you then. Sam, thank you. Well, also in that Post story, they reported some people were concerned about the doctor's willingness to prescribe opioid pills with hydrocodone and oxycodone rather than other medications commonly used in addiction treatment.
Our Jenna Webster joins us with some of the challenges tonight of treating addiction.
It definitely is a tough disease for a lot of people out there to battle. Jim Irsay had access to many resources, and yet it was still a serious struggle for him, and he's not alone. For many, it's a cycle that's hard to stop.
One more day.
Jim Reiser's been fighting his whole life with addiction, a story he's been open with on 13 News for more than a decade. It led to a career in addiction counseling and the strong opinion he now shares on treating it.
I come from an old school of thought. I've always been reductionist. You know, the less meds, the better. I'm really very supportive about using these medications to buy time for people, but to leave somebody on a drug that has horrific withdrawal for life, to me, sets them up for a future failure.
He's not alone in his battle.
It's a lifelong journey because relapse can always occur.
Since October last year, Meridian Health has treated 3,300 people across Indiana for substance abuse disorder. Part of that is therapy, support groups, and learning coping skills, but medications too.
So the person gets the injection in a medical office. We watch them for a little while just to make sure everything's okay. They can't be used alone. It's really important that they have support with that.
Lisa Settle, a nurse of 30 years, now VP, says Meridian does not use ketamine in its addiction treatment.
It always has to be monitored very closely. We work in outpatient settings, so that's a big reason why we don't.
In recent years, research suggests the drug can be used to treat depression, but the only FDA approval is for general anesthetic.
Using a drug like that unmonitored it would be malpractice.
Reiser will mark 26 years sober next month, a battle he still faces every day. Now, Settle over at Meridian Health says the biggest part of the treatment protocol at Meridian is trying to understand the whole person and why they're battling addiction. She says it's also important for doctors to know what medications patients are already using before prescribing others. And Dustin.
All right, Jenna, thank you so much. Now, to be clear, there are no criminal charges, or there is not a criminal investigation that's even open right now into the death of Jim Irsay.
But we have seen criminal investigations lead to charges before in deadly cases involving ketamine. Most notably, of course, would be the charges filed after the death of actor Matthew Perry.
Just last week, we told you that the fifth and the final defendant in that case, a woman known as the ketamine queen, was taking a plea deal in the case. She's accused of selling Perry 25 vials of ketamine 4 days before he died. Now, the Irsay's daughters did release a statement to the Post in regards to their investigation and report, and that's the same statement that they shared with us here at 13 News as well. You can read what they had to say when you check out this article right now. It's on our homepage today if you go to WTHR.com.
All right, to the weather now on this Thursday night. Let's take a live look downtown Indianapolis. Ooh, sunny skies. A different picture than what a lot of us woke up to this morning, Angela.
Yeah, even different from the noon hour when I think Sean and Rob were like, are we really going to get to our forecast highs in the 70s? Because we struggled.
It was cool.
It was cool. It was showery the early part of today, but the rain is moving out. And as you mentioned, the skies are clearing. We saw that from our camera. And the temperatures are rebounding. We're up to 77 in Indianapolis, Lafayette, Bloomington, and Bedford, where we still have some thicker clouds across the eastern sections of the state. It is a few degrees cooler. We're at 70 in Richmond and 73 in Muncie. A live Doppler 13 radar over the last couple of hours continues to show the movement south and east of these showers. Just a few sprinkles associated with some thicker clouds across the southeastern part of the state. We will keep an eye to the north and northwest. Any instability showers now that we have some sunshine. We'll watch those carefully. We're not expecting a lot. So if you're coming downtown for baseball at Victory Field this evening, first pitch at 6:35. We are expecting a few clouds and some sunshine at this point, not expecting any of those instability showers. As we get into our Friday, a mainly sunny sky, high temperatures again in the middle and upper 70s. How about the weekend? I know it's only Thursday, but we're staring down a long holiday weekend. Temperatures will be in the mid 70s to start, and then we'll climb into the upper 70s and low 80s to finish the Labor Day weekend.
Thanks, Angela. Developing tonight, the Indianapolis FOP is now responding to a City County Council Committee's decision to not pass a proposal that would hold parents accountable for youth violence.
They started taking up this issue of a juvenile curfew after that mass shooting downtown over the 4th of July holiday weekend. Well, this proposal took it a step further and would have led to fines against parents. Well, some counselors didn't like that. They say the punishment needs to be more on the kids than the parents.
But the FOP president backed the proposal, releasing this statement saying, quote, "No action is inaction by the council, and it would be more likely lead to a reaction from the Indiana State House." A Marion County jury just found a former IMPD police officer not guilty of rape.
Myron Howard was accused of returning to a woman's home after he'd arrested her boyfriend for domestic battery. The woman said she had sex with Howard under the implied threat that she could be arrested too.
The prosecutor in the case argued that was rape. The defense counter-argued, alleging that the woman lied about the sex because she was afraid of how her boyfriend would react.
Also tonight, we are learning a state police trooper used a taser to stop a suspect accused of stealing a state police SUV.
This is an update to a story that we first brought you as breaking news last night here on 13 News at 5. So in newly released court documents, the trooper said the driver refused to follow his commands as he told him to get out of the SUV. He says he then used the taser and arrested the driver.
The trooper said he then found the officer's gun in the suspect's bag and said the suspect admitted to stealing the police car to go on a joyride. Tonight, police investigating the shooter behind a Minneapolis school shooting. They say she was filled with hatred and obsessed with the thought of killing defenseless children.
2 children, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, died in that attack yesterday. There were 18 people who were hurt. Earlier today, we did learn the good news, the update on their conditions. They are all expected to recover. Tonight, our Ashton Heckman joins us live from Minneapolis.
And Ashton, what kind of response are you seeing from the community so far since you've been there?
Anne-Marie and Dustin, I can tell you the emotions and the pain, it's still very raw. People are still processing exactly what happened. We are nearly more than a day since that shooting took place inside this Catholic church behind me here, as investigators are just now beginning to piece together what happened. The community also beginning to piece together how to mourn.
The sun has set and risen over Minneapolis since a shooter opened fire inside Annunciation Catholic Church. 2 children were killed in the gunfire. Officials say an additional victim injured by the gunfire has since been identified, bringing the total to 15 children injured. 3 adult parishioners were also shot. They were gathered in the church for a back-to-school mass, marking just the 3rd day of the school year.
And now they're faced with, how do you go back? How do you put it back together? It's the start of school.
As the community continues to mourn, police are digging into the shooter's motive. Officials confirming 23-year-old Robin Westman used 3 different guns during the attack, and they were all bought legally and recently. Police say Westman shot through the glass windows, where they found 116 rifle rounds inside the church.
This is an unthinkable, completely senseless act. Violence perpetrated against children worshiping at Mass. And no investigation, no evidence will ever be able to make sense of such an unthinkable tragedy.
Police have executed search warrants at the church and 3 other locations. We're told officers recovered guns during the searches. As the investigation grows, so too do the memorials, filling the street corners and outside the steps of a place of worship that has become the center of a tragedy.
Now, we have seen several stories of survival from inside that Catholic church where this tragedy unfolded. One of them, a 10-year-old who said he heard the gunshots. His friend helped, dove on top of him, took a bullet. Both of them are expected to be okay. That 10-year-old was thankfully not shot, but we saw him back out here right in front of the church this morning. He was talking to people who were gathering, and we are seeing plenty more people already beginning to gather out here this evening. But Anne-Marie and Dustin, a 10-year-old, learning how to process what he went through on the 3rd day of school here inside that Catholic school.
Yeah, in a church as they were praying.
Right, unfathomable. Ashton, how has this impacted you up there seeing this? I don't know that you've covered a school shooting before. This is new territory, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in an era where this was common. I was in 4th grade when Sandy Hook took place back in 2012, so I'm no stranger to school shootings, but this is the first one that I've been able to cover, and this one is just, I gotta tell you, there are memorials lined up across the street. We've seen plenty of people embracing one another. Plenty of tears are shed, and we are only just 1 day out from that shooting. It's gonna take a long time, if any, for this community to heal. It is a very impactful moment.
All right. Well, thanks for being there and helping tell this story, Ashton. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, and the coverage continues on the Nightly News tonight with Tom Yamas. They talk about the investigation into the school shooting there in Minneapolis.
They're going to have a look at the community in mourning and then share what they've learned about the shooter. That's coming up at 6:30, right after 13 News at 6.
I just don't want anybody else to go through it.
A family builds their dream home only to find out that it likely needs to be all redone.
They're warning for others after a devastating financial loss. It's new at 5:30. Eli?
Yeah, guys, the Colts have named their captains for the 2025 season. I'll tell you who they are on the other side of the break.